Okay, here we are. We're going to talk about propaganda and extreme persuasion. So we're going to talk about different persuasion techniques, which are starting to fall outside the realm of ethically, propaganda. Active persuasion to spread biased information to support or oppose a person, product, cause, or organization. So propaganda tends to use emotional appeals, arouse emotions, right? Based on this. So spicy foods and stress cause stomach ulcers. That's just a statement, right? It's unbiased. Don't buy your insurance from Deal State. That outfit is a bunch of crooks, right? Biased argument meant to raise an emotional reaction. Okay, where am I? Here. So certain things that are used in the act of persuasion, irrelevant arguments, okay? Fallacies, personal attacks, abusive remarks in the place of evidence or a point of argument. I am not even going to, I'm sorry, I can't help but talk about President Donald Trump for most of these propaganda persuasion techniques, okay? So, Sam, a convicted felon, wants to ban smoking in restaurants. His opponents attack his criminal record, not his idea. Now the lawbreakers want to make the laws, okay? So they got nothing, they're not saying anything about his idea itself, they're just attacking the messenger. I'm not even going to read that bottom one because I know you know how to read. A straw man fallacy is where you substitute arguments, a stronger one for an easier one so that you can challenge it. So it misrepresents and distorts the original message. So, and falsifies and weakens the original position. Look at this. Governor Goodfeeling opposes drilling for oil in Alaska, but the U.S. is too dependent on foreign oil supplies, and the economy would benefit from having an American supply for oil. The government wants to keep us dependent on foreign oil cartels. I'm sorry, we're hearing these arguments for the wall right now, and how if you're against the wall, then it must be because you want all criminals to come in. It was just, that's just not how it works, okay? You just flipped the argument around and made it, well, whatever. Begging the question or circular reasoning. That is, the reason for your argument is the argument. Spinach is awful tasting because it tastes bad. Logical. How about a little bit less circular? I never eat spinach because it is bitter taste, and I don't like foods that taste bitter. I actually like spinach. All right, give me a break. Good stuff. Name calling, okay, where you put negative labels onto an idea, a cause, a person. You can't verify them. They don't mean anything. People who burn the flag are traitors. Yeah, Or nicknames that Donald Trump picked up in 2016, and they continue going. Crazy Bernie, Crooked Hillary, Little Marco, Lion Ted, Low Energy Jeb, and Goofy Elizabeth Warren. That's right, now she's Pocahontas, right? In the last presentation I thought she was Sacagawea, but it was Pocahontas, I remember now. I remember that one. Powerful, powerful. Testimonials, irrelevant opinions to support a product. So, famous athlete Jerome Highjumper says, drinking milk every day makes me the athlete I am. So it's his opinion. It has nothing to do with the product. The guy has no expertise at all. Simply, let's use it. The old bandwagon argument. This is the same one that my children try to constantly use to convince me, but all my friends have. It started years ago when Apple came up with that iPhone. But all my friends have. So they're trying to persuade me to buy them a new cell phone by convincing me that everyone else has one, and so they should have one. I don't know. Plain folks. This is one that's used by a lot of people. I got you-know-who on the slide here, but clearly Hillary Clinton did the same stuff. I got some images of Hillary Clinton eating, I think it's a corn dog at a county fair, just want to be, just look at me. But he was famous for this taco bowl. They took this picture on his airplane when he was, running for president. And he put it out there like somehow it was going to make him look good. He was eating a Taco Bell taco bowl. So, I don't know, whatever. They are what they are, okay? Where am I? Either or. Yeah, these are frightening. It's a form of persuasion. Like, say, again, one of our presidents, and it's a previous president whose name was George W. Bush, who famously said, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. Okay? There ain't no two in between. You're either with us or you're with the terrorists. And this is a troublesome thing. I've heard the same persuasive message being used, oh, I'm afraid to say it, but in a Baptist church by a reverend who said, if you're a Christian, you cannot vote for somebody that supports abortion. Okay? And it was just like either or. There's only one or the other. You can be Christian or non-Christian. I mean, that's it. And it was like, okay, you're either with us or you're with the terrorists. A false analysis, a false comparison or false analogy. And again, a really big one that hit the news not too long ago was after the violent protests in Charlottesburg, Virginia. And again, our president who said there were good people on both sides. And it's like, yeah, I'm positive that not everybody on either side was a terrible person, but it is a false comparison. You just can't make a comparison between these two, and yet that was the argument. False cause, or post hoc ergo propter hoc. So just because two things follow each other doesn't make it true. And so if you're trying to pass a persuasive message, you can say, see, when I put up this law, look at what happened, so it must be a good law. I was like, no, I mean, it could have been a lot of reasons that the event happened. It was not the implementation of that law, perhaps. Card stacking. So you try to persuade people by ignoring the bad stuff. So you're like, buy my product, it's low in fat, okay? And so, yeah, nowadays it's really common to see on candy, I buy candy, all right? And they call it a low-fat candy. And it's like, yeah, but what about the sugar and the calories? But it's low-fat, okay? I'll give you that. I got it. And so somehow I'm supposed to think that's the best thing. Transfer. Oh, here, this one's nuts. You take a symbol or an image that has a positive value and you put it on your vehicle or something, okay? God bless America on a product, right? It had nothing to do with the product, zero at all, but they're trying to pull up these beliefs. I just love this, putting a Jesus fish on a company truck to persuade you to use their company. Oh my goodness, looks vaguely exploitive. Or glittering generalities, okay? Just things that can't be verified, right? Listen to this, I love it. A vote for candidate Anthony Vaccaro is a vote for honesty and integrity. What the hell does that even mean, right? You can't even confirm such a thing. All right, so we kind of got some of these interesting persuasive messages or techniques, right, for using propaganda. So now let's take propaganda to the extreme, or persuasion to the extreme, and talk about a cult. A cult, we can have a definition that is a distinctive ritual and beliefs associated with the devotion to a god or a person, isolating people from a surrounding evil culture, a charismatic leader, etc. A lot of people have a hard time with Mormonism, and they believe Mormonism is not, in fact, a sect of Christianity. They believe it is a cult. I think that one of the reasons Mitt Romney stood no prayer in his bid for a presidential election was because he was a Mormon. I just think there are too many evangelical Christians that just do not see Mormonism as an actual sect of Christianity. But hey, I'm not your religion prof, okay? So, what happens with cults, all right? What happens is people take these commitments that they have made voluntarily, publicly, repeatedly, and they internalize them. Think the, what was it, the cognitive dissonance theory. So let's say you don't believe this is necessarily a good movement, but you've made, well, we'll have to go forward, but I guess it's on the next slide, but I'll say it here. Let's say, for example, they say, hey, why don't you just come to our picnic? We have free food and we'll talk about stuff. And so all of a sudden, you have committed a behavior. You go there and you don't agree with it. You don't agree with the idea. And so you start to have a dissonance, a disconnect, right? I don't believe in this movement, but I did, in fact, voluntarily choose to go to this free presentation. So how can I square that away? And so to reduce the dissonance, remember you cannot change behavior. Behavior has already occurred. So maybe if you change your attitude, okay? So something like that. What we find is that compliance breeds acceptance. So there's behavioral rituals involved, public recruitment, fundraising, and in fact, in many of these cults, there's required donations, okay? And a lot of churches do in fact require say a tithe or even more, okay? And they in fact require that you submit your tax records every year to do so. And so when you're in that situation, it is getting on the iffy borderline between a cult and a sect at that point, okay? And so the more that the members commit, the more that they need to justify it. So clearly the foot in the door phenomenon works, that the cult will draw people in by giving them something simple to begin with. And at first, monetary offerings are voluntary, and maybe they pass the hat around. And because of other social pressures, you just put a couple of bucks in. But now you have voluntarily given a couple of bucks, right? And so once this has happened, the whole cycle can begin. So persuasive cults, or ones which work, have a very, very charismatic communicators, leaders. Jim Jones, if anybody remembers Jim Jones, he was the head of, wow, I can't even remember the name of his cult. They were based in Los Angeles, and they were very successful. He had a very, very large following. But the IRS started to look into them, and so did what was happening then after a while was not just the IRS, but the family members of the members of the cult started to call the FBI and, hey, guess what? Things are going funky. And so Jim Jones packs up his whole cult and brings them, families and all, down to Guyana in South America, and he sets up a compound, and he's got that suckers going. He's under control. And what happens is he has emotional messages. He showers his followers with love. Well, the cult members were very, very specifically selected. You find people that don't have a social support group, and you offer them the social support that they need. So cult members tend to be younger with fewer social connections, that are more impressionable, that are facing a crisis in their lives. What we find is cults will isolate people, right? They want to separate them from their previous support systems. Only engage with other members of our group, okay? They punish disagreement so that it looks like you have consensus in the group. So once you get a culture where disagreement is punished, and all of a sudden, you ask for an opinion and you get 100% agreement, okay? And what we find is Jim Jones, by the way, got his group so caught up in this movement. It's just, if you haven't heard of the Jim Jones story, you got to look it up. It's just too unbelievable to be possibly real. Even Hollywood couldn't have invented that movie. So, and in fact, I think I saw a movie about it once. But anyway, you should look that one up. That's worthwhile, Jim Jones. So anyway, we find that these techniques that are used by cults are pretty much the same techniques that are used by the military, monasteries, fraternities, sororities. Yeah, I remember when I was in college freshman year, and the kid in the room next to me, he joined a fraternity, and the fraternity made it very, very, very clear. Yes, you live in that dorm room, okay, but you do not interact with the other kids on that floor, okay? You will go to your dorm room, you will sleep, you will get up in the morning, you will eat in the cafeteria, and after that, you will do nothing but fraternity functions from here on out. And it was horrible, and I couldn't believe he was paying to do that, okay? And so we find that similar results can happen, though, even in group therapy sessions. So when you have a group therapy session, sometimes you can get this cult-like, protection from outside people so that you support each other and only each other, and all disagreement is frowned upon. And so this can spontaneously emerge as well. All right, so we've got this idea about, persuasion, different types of persuasion, the elements that makes a message more or less persuasive. Now, how about we say, how can we make ourselves less subject to persuasion? And that's going to be our last topic for this particular section, topic, whatever. Okay,